I would like to close, as promised, with some restitution from the different discussion. All the breakout discussion have been recorded and will be actually made available in full in the project website of the event. But a short recap of the key point emerged in the discussion is really interesting. So I would like to ask the mentors and rapporteurs to have a few, let's say, 5 minutes from each session. Given that any order would be artificial, let's just take the alphabetic order, if you agree, so that we can begin with bias, and then inequality, and then polarization, and then social good. So please, the mentors and rapporteurs from the bias.
For bias, Anna here. I will talk about this. Can I start?
Thanks, Anna. Please go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So, so this is the list of the key points that arise during the discussion, a very interesting discussion. So concerning bias, how to address bias, and the key points that was highlighted is that when we address bias in AI, we should consider that the best way to approach the problem is a multidisciplinary approach, where we should put together the competencies from data scientists, engineering, or philosophers, social scientists. And the community also highlighted that we, until now, we put a lot of effort in detecting bias and understanding this bias in data and algorithms, but we should put more effort in mitigation, and especially in defining system that by design consider these bias problems in the system. It was also highlighted the fact that sometimes in many contexts where, for example, in text data, where it is not very clear which are the sensitive groups. So in this case, it is really hard to study the problem of bias. And also there was some people highlighting the importance of transparency. Transparency because could help in understanding the bias in the system and or other AI system. And also maybe in this case, it is important to have a mechanism for assessing the quality of AI system and understanding how detect these negative impact that can change over the time, because the system is dynamic, the interaction can change, and also the effects over the time can change, even if you have always the same system. And in this case, it is important, the law enforcement, because otherwise the problem of bias is not considered by big players. We have in the past the same experience in privacy, that before the regulation, nobody considered this aspect, and now it is taken into consideration. So because we cannot rely on self-regulation. And as a last but not least important is that we should promote the public awareness about the fact that this AI system can have some problem, and so we cannot ignore this. So I hope that I stay in the 5 minutes that I have, and this is a summary of what we discussed.
Thank you, Anna Monreale. Is there anyone from the other mentors or the other participant to the bias that would like to add, let's say, a single sentence comment, urgent comment?
No, I was one of the other mentors. I think Anna did a really good job in condensing a very complex discussion that raised many different issues.
Thank you, Katarina. And of course, the entire discussion will be available, recorded for the other participant or whoever wants to actually go further. Thank you very much for this restitution.
Okay,
if there is not more from the bias breakout, let's proceed with the inequality one. So I would like to invite the mentors and rapporteurs, or whoever they want to tell us about the discussion in the inequality breakout.
Hi, Dino, can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so I will report what we have said into the inequality breakout room. Well, actually, it was a pretty dense discussion covering a lot of interesting topics that we may summarize in three main points, in three main topics that are intersectionality and inequality, databases and inequality, and finally education, which is, probably common to all the other break rooms. Regarding intersectionality and inequality, well, the problem here is that, our personal data are nowadays generated across multiple devices and in a lot of very various and different domains. This may create intersectional inequalities. By intersectional inequalities, we mean that the interaction of multiple identities and experiences of exclusion and subordination, for example, race, gender, class, and class in the labor market may emerge. And also this raises both social and technical questions that maybe we should tackle in the future. And this is also partly related to the second important point, which is database and inequality. There is a basic inequality also in science itself, that is many public institutions such as universities and public institutions work generally on public data, which are pretty small, while most of the very big data sets are from companies. This creates a first inequality, and probably which stops, the developing of a fair science in this aspect. And also, there are existing inequalities across technical dimensions, and also regarding the optimization problem that we want to tackle. So this is another way of linking social and technical parts of the problem that we should tackle in the future. And finally, there is a third point, which is probably, a background point that is common to all the topics that we addressed today. That is probably we have to rethink the education system from scratch. On the one hand, we should start tackling inequality earlier in the education system, in kindergartens and in primary schools, and not only at universities. And also probably in some cases there is a problem of interdisciplinarity, as also Anna was pointing out, because sometimes we miss the technical dimension of the problem, sometimes we miss the social dimension of the problem, sometimes we miss other kind of aspects. So we need for a very strong interdisciplinarity to tackle inequality, and also to tackle inequality with the use of artificial intelligence. And this probably will need the entire rethinking of the education system, which is probably very similar to the one it was 50 years ago or 20 years ago. And this is more or less, a summary of what we discussed.
Thank you, Luca Papalardo. Very nice picture. Again, I asked the other mentors or participants of the inequality breakout if they want to add a quick sentence or an aspect that would underline some aspects of the discussion.
Sure. Just really quickly, I think, what becomes clear is that if we're going to understand inequality in relation to AI, then, I think we already all know this, then we need to take seriously both the social and the technical dimensions. But that means not just events like this, which I think are contributing to that kind of cross-disciplinary discussion, but we need to think about new ways of making translation points, and that finally, this is a permanent problem. We don't have a single solution to this, but it's a kind of an ongoing challenge that we face to have that holistic understanding.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you to all the people who brought the discussion forward. I hope this is the beginning of the discussion, of course, not. And I would proceed with the third breakout. The third breakout was about polarization. I see Chiara Boldrini.
Yeah.
Please.
I'm doing the wrap up, and then Janos will weigh in with some comments if I miss something. So as it was the case for the previous rooms, we had a very lively discussion about polarization. And probably the main take-home message is that we believe that the challenges of polarization are not really technological, but related to humans. So that's why this event was also important, because basically we were stressing out that we should leverage knowledge from social sciences more and more. One of the examples behind this consideration is that improving polarization does not boil down only to let's say, improving the quality of content, but also the quality of emotions associated with content, because one of the speakers mentioned the concept of affective polarization. So it's not really, for example, left-wing or right-wing, but it's the emotion that is associated to that content and the kind of affective polarization that it arises from it. A third point that we discussed upon was the fact that when it comes to fighting polarization, intuitive ideas don't seem to work very well. For example, one might think that rebalancing the information diet with content from an opposite point of view would help people being less polarized, and actually it has been shown that is the opposite. So if you expose people to for example, right-wing people to left-wing content, that they will become more polarized in the end. So it is difficult to decide what it should be the intervention, if we want, with or without AI, in a sense. Another comment was about the attention economy. So the fact that until platforms and their business model is based on making money out of grabbing the attention of people, is very difficult to foresee a change in the situation. So we talk about incentives for platforms, and again we touched upon the fact that even if we were able to manipulate the incentives, it's really difficult to know what to do with them in order to reduce polarization. Another topic that we discussed quite a bit was that of decentralized AI, because typically when we talk about polarization, we mean like polarization on social media as we know it today, so Facebook, Twitter. But in the future, we can imagine that there will be AI agents that are not on closed servers up on the cloud, but maybe they are on our devices. So what would be the role of decentralized AI for polarization? It could be an opportunity for improving the situation, but maybe there will be also some challenges related to the fact that everything is decentralized, so it's more difficult to control. And I want to close with this final point that was made by one of the speakers, is that when we think about an ecosystem of humans and AI, we often imagine it as a sort of heaven where everybody is nice and cooperate, humans with AIs and vice versa. But from the experiments that have been done so far, actually this cooperation is not working very well, and the ones that are behaving badly is often humans and not AI. We don't trust AI, we cheat if we have the opportunity, and we exploit benevolent AI. So this is another dimension that should be taken into account if you want to leverage AI for solving our social problems. So that's it from our breakout room. I don't know if Janos wants to add something.
Thank you, Chiara. This was an excellent summary. Maybe I add only that, of course, this problem is also of the kind that it is a permanent issue, and it should be attacked in an interdisciplinary manner. As Chiara pointed out, obviously this is a social problem which we have to handle also with the tools of social sciences. And and radically different ways of thinking are needed. And perhaps decentralized, explainable AI could indeed be a route. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chiara and Janos, for reporting from this discussion. Very, very interesting observations. I would like to proceed. I would have a couple of comments, but I think it's better to proceed. I don't want to be intrusive because you did a fantastic job. We now have the restitution from the social good breakout from our rapporteurs and mentors, please.
Oops, I'm trying to share my slide. So anyway, otherwise I go without slide because there's some problem. Doesn't matter. Okay, well, it's not allowing me to share the slide. I don't know why. Yeah. Sorry,
No problem, Michele.
we have to overcome some privilege. Okay, let's do without slide. I will send that afterwards. Sorry about that. So,
No,
as the other section was a great section, a lot of discussion. I think we could continue for hours. I try to summarize a few points, so you don't even see on the screen. But if when the others want to add something else, feel free. So, AI for good. I think the key point we had can be summarized saying the societal problem first and the technology after. So we should start from the problem for the society we want to solve. We should avoid the risk that, as many cases in technology, we have a technological solution and we are looking for problem. This is a risk, it exists, but we should focus on society first. That is not easy because, of course, what is a societal problem, how we can agree on that could be a very complex problem, but this is something that needs to be done. In practice, we also come to some of the points that were mentioned this morning. One is about objectives, how we choose the objectives, because at the end, an AI system is an optimization machine and needs some optimization objective. But this is the hard part because we want to solve societal problems. So how we can translate a problem for society in something that is, say, machine readable in an optimization problem for a machine. So what kind of objectives, multiple objectives, and the like. The second point that is related, it is about diversity. Well, again, since the society comes first and technology after, the machines are good to find one optimum. But maybe for us, for humans, it's more important to find a balance. So to have the machine that is not, I mean, it's not just looking for a single optimum, but more offering, say, a choice, a set of choices to the humans. Because at the end, we don't want to, say, to solve some short-term objectives. but we want to really to have the complex problem that are not always, say, formally translatable in machine readable problem. We need, say, more flexibility. Another point that we mentioned is about speed. AI is moving very, very fast. And that is sometimes an issue for us, for humans. It takes time for us to understand the AI system. It takes time for setting up the policy that should handle this AI system. It takes time for the legal framework. So likely we should think to slow down the usage, I mean, of completely new technology. Again, this is not a new problem in the sense that, I mean, in many businesses, if you think to drug manufacture, before having, well, we have some exception, but because having a drug in the market, it takes years. So while with the AI system, we are running at an incredible pace. And the last point what you mentioned was AI for common good. There are a set of, say, big human challenge like the recent COVID, climate change. And the question is, can AI be used to make these big problems that are sometimes hard to understand to the people, to make them more tangible, more visible? Typically, humans, the lack of long-term, say, risk assessment. When we think about the environment, we say, well, it's not for today. And the question is, can we use AI system to support the humans to understand, say, the long-term objectives for humanity? These are the main points, the 4 main points that we had. I don't know if the others want to add something else.
Thank you, Michele Bezzi, very much for this. I was part of this discussion. I think you did a great job. I don't know if the other people from the breakout want to say a sentence, or if so, please speak out. And if this is not the case, I really believe that we could continue for hours. I'm sure that many of us have points to make, a question to ask, aspect to make. But I think that today was really a very good dialogue. It was a true interdisciplinary dialogue. We know it is not sufficient, but certainly what we did today is necessary to start along the direction of for better relationship between AI technology and societal problems. So I think it was very refreshing day. I enjoyed a lot participating. Thanks really very much. I don't know at this time, it's 6:35, whether we can actually continue to have other conversation, but I really would like to thank you, all the participants to this very interesting roundtable, the fire starter speakers, the mentors, the rapporteurs, but all the participants. I think that everybody really had the chance to speak out, and there is a very interesting overall picture that comes out from this, with in retrospect some let's say recurring point that comes over and over again in a different discussion, and this is a precious thing to somehow write down precisely to advance this important field, okay, which is not just a field of AI. It's an important field of society and societal innovation. Really, thanks a lot, everybody. Hope to continue from on this line of reasoning. There will be more events, and above all, more research into this project and all the satellite projects that we have in Europe and beyond. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And only quick mention to Letizia Milli, Chiara Boldrini and Laura Sartori that helped a lot in the organization of the day. They were really precious. Thank you, Chiara, Letizia, and Laura. And thanks to all the people from the Work Package 4 of social AI, of human AI.